Hello, hello, hello. This is Vicki James with Thrive Hive, where we're on our final Thrive Hive Live. I can't believe it. 21 weeks ago, I started this little series looking at what I used to call 21 steps, but now they're more puzzle pieces on what it really takes to launch a business. It has a way for people who are just starting out to kind of learn more about the nuts and bolts behind the scene, because I know when I first started my business, I knew quite a few things. I certainly didn't know everything I needed to know. And there's some things I thought I knew, but I needed to learn better. And so this series is a way to give you a heads up. And as I said, it's the final session. Who knew 21 weeks ago that we would make it to the end? I'm a little bit excited about it. A little bit sad too. I'm sure I'll pop up somewhere along the way with some lives now that I've kind of gotten used to the little home here. And yeah, so see Patrick's in the room. If you're in the room or either live or even after the fact, drop a comment. I'd love to know who has visited, where you're from, what you're building, and yeah, let's have some good times learning from each other. So I mentioned the 21 puzzle pieces. Here's a little peek here. And it's really a broad brushstroke of all the things it takes to run a business, because you may be great at your craft, and that could be has a bookkeeper, for instance, which means, hey, I know how to do books. I can run a business, right? But doesn't mean you understand marketing or automation and systems and that kind of thing. So it's really about, okay, well, what are all the little different pieces that can help me run a sustainable and successful business? Thank you, Patrick and Cheryl, for the congratulations. Let's add myself back in so you can still hear me. All right, this session in particular, we're gonna be leaning in a lot to the E-Myth. And this is a book by Michael Gerber. I'd heard about it. It took me a while before I read it, but once I did, it was really life-changing. So I'll probably pull that up again as we go, but that's what we're looking at. I do want to let you know that if you look at the description for the event, you'll find a couple things in there. One, you'll find a link to the book, so you could learn more. But also there's a link to the workbook that I'll be working through. There it is. Oops, that's not it. The workbook that kind of has some thoughts and exercises to go through as we think through this creating systems for your business. And then there's also a link for the assessment, which is a way to see, of those 21 puzzle pieces, which one did I not even know was missing? Which ones maybe don't quite fit right yet? I could use some information on. It's a really great way to see what knowledge will help you go further faster with your business, because the more confidence we have in the decision starting our business, the more clarity we have, the faster we get to clients. And that's honestly what it's all about. I'm hoping that you get there faster than I did by learning from some of the things I did along the way. All right. And yeah, the whole thing is built on the idea that you started your business because you're an expert at your craft, you're credentialed, you have grit, you have a lot of AI, but there may be some personal touch that will help you go the extra step. And that's what Thrive Hive is all about. All right, and I did mention it's about community. I'll just repeat for the folks new in the room. Yeah, go ahead and drop your information in the comments. I would love to connect with you, whether you're live with us today, which is June 29th, 2026, or if you're watching this in the future, either on LinkedIn or YouTube. And I will do just a little aside. I just realized today is 6 months since I landed in Valencia, Spain. 6 months, wow. Lots of things happening lately. All right, let's go ahead and get into the work now. So why this matters is, one thing that solopreneurs often do, or entrepreneurs in general, is maybe they're 3 or 5 years into the business and they feel like they're working harder than ever. And the thought is like, I didn't start my business, become a slave to my business, but how do I get out of it? And I'll use the example from the E-Myth book. Michael Gerber talks about a gal that bakes pies. And in order to keep baking the pies that the people want to buy, she just has to be in the kitchen all the time doing that thing, because she doesn't have the systems in place to find some relief as she goes. And that's not why I started my business. I started my business for freedom, not just to change the look and feel of the shackles that are holding me down to my job. And so that's why this is important. And even if you're still small and you're handling it all today, understanding how to build these sustainable systems today and starting to take the right steps will set you up for that growth phase when you can really start to implement this stuff at scale and gain some great efficiencies. All right. So, and with the myth, I'll talk about that briefly. What he's really talking about is, I'll use the pie baker as the example. It's like, if I'm only baking the pie, I'm a technician. And all businesses need technicians. They're the ones that do the thing of the business we do. But all businesses also need managers. Who's going to organize? Who's going to oversee? Who's going to bring in help when it's needed? And so we need some capacity for that management piece. And then finally, entrepreneurship. So who is the innovator? Who's actually thinking of visions and answers? And when you're a solopreneur like I am, that falls on me to do it. But if all my time is spent in technician because there is so much work to do there and there's not enough hours of the day, then the business is going to suffer because no one is managing it. And there's nobody to put some strategic leadership and vision into how that business grows. That was life-changing for me when I read this. In fact, for about 3 months after that, I started tracking my time. I started making sure that my daily to-do list had, am I putting enough effort in technician versus manager versus entrepreneur? I'm making sure that there's at least a good chunk of every week where I can do some envisioning and strategic planning for the business. Am I putting in a decent amount of time to think through my processes and those things that are managing the business? And so just understanding that if we're always in technician mode, we're always doing the thing that we built our business around, then our business will not have a chance to flourish and grow, but will become captive to the business that we do have. So again, that was just really, really hit home for me. Right. So one way to kind of think about your business and where there's opportunities for some automations, especially to get out of that tech, or some ways to get away from that technician trap, is think about if you were a step away from your business for a 2-week vacation, no computer, no cell phone, like you're going on a desert island, what would fall down in your business? And that's really essential because that tells you, or even if it was 2 days, what's going to fall down after 2 days? Because these are the things that give you an opportunity to say, oh, if I could fix that thing, is so that looking at where there's opportunities to build some sustainability into your business, looking at what are the things that would fall down if you stepped away for 2 weeks or even for 2 days. Because if there's something that happens that if you're not there isn't going to work, then that helps you prioritize where areas that you'll want to lean in and look for sustainability. So hopefully that was all we missed when my mic went out for a minute there. I'm glad I saw my little green light go out. We'll go ahead and move along. And then just saw the news from Patrick. Okay, so I probably caught it pretty early. I'll keep going, keep it on. All right. So one of the things that I found fascinating in reading the E-Myth was the idea that it's McDonald's. He talks a lot about Ray Kroc, and when he came into McDonald's and he said, okay, here's a business that is making just burgers, fries, milkshakes, like a few things, and people are loving it. And where Ray Kroc's genius came in is he came in and said, what if we could build systems around how to make these burgers, how to make these fries, how to do all of these things so that the quality was consistent wherever you went to order these. And that's the whole story behind McDonald's. It's not that Ray Kroc knew how to make a great burger. It's more like he thought a little bit more like Ford and said, ooh, how can we turn this into something so that the burger is always made to taste exactly the same, to have the same quality. So whenever somebody went to McDonald's anywhere, they would get the same hamburger. And that's kind of really illuminated for me this idea of like, oh, right. When you have the systems in place, when you know step A, B, C, D, you have the tools. Now all of a sudden things become systemized, become easier, become consistent, and now the technician isn't having to do all of it. We're able to outsource those parts a lot easier. Whether today it might be outsourcing the AI, might be outsourcing to a tool, might be bringing somebody in to delegate. But once we understand what that system is that works and brings consistency, now we can start to outsource parts of that system and maintain the high quality and consistency that we were bringing our clients all along. So that's really the basis behind, or a lot of it behind eMyth, and we'll go into a little bit more too as well. But the next thing really looking at is when it comes to these systems, looking at all the different parts and understanding what it is, who owns it, who should really own it, and who's going to fill it tomorrow. And what that means is, and I'll just give you an example from my own business. So I'm a solopreneur. I run Thrive Hive and Beyond Aligned Books. And when it comes to, let's just say, client acquisition. So, going to networking to look for people that might become a client, whether it's bookkeeping or Thrive Hive. Who owns that? Well, currently I own it, but I have to look at that as a role. Like one is, client acquisition or client outreach. So who does that? I do that. How do I do it? I have some systems in place. There's some things that I do every day, especially through LinkedIn. There's some things I do every week in networking. There's some ways that I participate in that networking. And so now I can start to really understand what that little piece of the puzzle is. And right now I'm doing it, but do I always have to do it? Not necessarily. So now I can start thinking about like, well, as my business grows, what type of skill set do I need to help me grow? And that really stuck with me as well. And I'll tell you, one of the things that helps me in all of this is the fact that AI helps me to identify things to systemize. Because if I can figure out a way to have either my AI agents or a tool that does some data transfer for me, if I can figure out how to systemize those steps, now all of a sudden I'm building some processes that make life a lot easier and make the business easier to run so that I'm not a slave to the technician. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite examples of this working out really well is for the people that are in Thrive Hive. Every Friday they get an email from me. I can get that email sent out in about 10 minutes. I have a system for how I scrape what I want to send, how I have the prompted AI set. So I just scrape, put it in there, scrape, put it in there. It knows. Because we have these tools available now, or at least for me, I'm able to start thinking about how to put systems, processes, and tools in place to make my business easier. And typically, as I do that, it also helps me to go to the next step. If I'm not the one doing this, what does it look like? Now I can start to actually draft some processes that if I were to hire a VA tomorrow, they'd have everything they would need to get moving forward. And so really this idea of building the sustainable business is, how do we get out of the trap of having to do everything ourselves every minute and moving that forward? So so my audio went out again. I think I caught it super quick this time. So the heck with that microphone, we'll just use the laptop. All right. So hopefully you're getting the idea here. It's like the whole thing about this final step. And I think it makes the great final step is, great, we're running this business. We're learning how to do marketing. We're learning how to do sales. We're learning how to do our books, like all of these things. But that's a lot of different things. And as solopreneurs, we can't keep doing it, all of those things together or all of the time. And that kind of comes back to the story that Michael Gerber was telling in the book as well with that, the pie baker. It's, she, couldn't do the financials. She had to hand that off to somebody else. But she also needed to still stay attuned to what was happening. And so there's just so many traps that we can fit in if we're not being really cognizant and proactive on how we approach this. All right. So anyway, so that's going back to the roles. And so I would encourage you to think about like the maybe 5 things that you do on a regular basis that maybe you don't love, maybe you're not great at, and you're doing it now, but and what would be the title if you were to hire a unicorn today to do that thing? Would it be the head of marketing? Would it be the bookkeeper? Would it be the CFO? And start to recognize those roles that can support you as your business grows. And so you're doing it today. Like I get it. Or maybe if you're a small business, you might have a couple people in there, but then you can start prioritizing of, if I didn't have to do this today, if I could bring somebody in, where would that help me with my business? All right. So that was the gist of what I wanted to talk about as far as building those sustainable systems. It's really about how can we get out of being a slave to our business because we're the only ones that know how to do anything and we're doing everything as a result. And so looking for those opportunities, for those systems, for those tools, and then further, what does bringing other people in look like? And we don't have to wait till we're doing that. That's the other benefit. Is like, I know, so we'll talk about that email I send every week. It's like, I know what role would do that. And the next hire I make will likely be a VA, and I already have that operating manual ready to hand over to them. And so by incrementally adjusting those, that's where we're going to get the benefits so that we're building sustainable systems. Now, I will say, if you find yourself 2-3 years down the road and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I have no time and all these systems are falling apart and all the things they're doing, there's a lot of growth specialists out there that will help you get organized and bring that stuff forward. And I have a ton of people in my network, so please let me know. I'm happy to give referrals, whether it's an online business manager or a growth strategist. There are folks out there to help, but I'm hoping that if you're just starting your business, we can get you set up in a way that that becomes a non-issue. All right. So I brought up the 21 puzzle pieces again, because when you're thinking about where are these opportunities to automate, to tool, to delegate, like all of those things, I think there's some clues in here, because we are looking at things like the bookkeeping, the sales, the marketing. Thank you, Amy. I see your comment. And so you can kind of look at that to say, oh, you know what? Actually, that's one area I think we can start to make some improvements and then dig into that. So I think it's a really great reference. It's not everything that you do. This wasn't meant to be everything. It's like an 80%, okay, we got a good chunk of our business understood if we have these 21 puzzle pieces filled in well. And so that is a good place to start. I think. You can let me know if not. All right, so as we wrap up, so that's it. Now we did our 21 pieces. We thought about our sustainable business. We're looking to identify those tools and processes that make it easier. We're thinking about those roles of those things that need to happen in our business and who can do it in the future. But here's the thing about building a business. It's not one and done. It's not linear, like it's all evolving. And so I want to encourage folks to, even if you've been in business for a while, to take a look at some of these things, to be like, okay, well, my, bookkeeping looked pretty good last year, but is there opportunities for improvement today? Maybe I've been holding on to this too long, or maybe I've missed some innovations that would make it easier. And so I would say always go back to those 21 steps to see, or those 21 puzzle pieces to see where is there an opportunity to build some efficiency in. And with the assessment too, you may have a profitable business. You've been around, 3-4 years, but you may find through the assessment that, ooh, you know what? Here's a little piece that I think I can improve. Maybe I need to update my learning or even just refresh my learning and start to look at ways to bring that in. So I'd say, these 21 pieces, the 21 steps, these are always living and always an opportunity to come back to it and grow a little bit more. And I know even for myself, it's happening all the time. In fact, I was on a coaching call last week, and my coach had said something that just rang this epiphany. And I'm like, okay. And the entrepreneur woke right up and it's like, okay, we have some adjustments to make this business even better. And that's part of anything that we do in life, but especially with our business, the opportunity to grow and make it better. So I'd say the assessment is out there. I hope you'll give it a shot. I'd love to help you out with that. If you do the assessment, then I will follow up with what we're seeing, a chance to talk and kind of see what's next for you. And even just looking at what those puzzle pieces are will help. And then the E-Myth, I really do let me go put him back up here again. There we go. The E-Myth. Definitely think it is a great read. I had heard it from one of my peers in my network, Joshua George of CIBN. And when I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this should be required reading for every business, because it'll help you understand how to structure yourself today to save headaches tomorrow. And it's a favorite out there. So with that, I think I am done with the Thrive Hive Live and our 21 steps. Let me take this down and look at you all more directly. I hope you will take the assessment and see where you are. These videos will live on. I do have them out on YouTube where they're a little bit easier to find. So you can go to YouTube and search Thrive Hive Live. They should pop right up, or just let me know and I'll send you a link. Or maybe you're already there. And yeah, this has been an honor, a lot of fun. I want to thank, Patrick, Cheryl, and Elizabeth in particular, who have showed up to more than half of these. I think Patrick's shown up to absolutely everyone. And I love the support. I appreciate it. And that's what Thrive Hive is all about, showing up for each other so we can be stronger in our businesses, and maybe a little less lonely too. So with that, I will say thank you for following along through this path. And I hope to see you on LinkedIn, YouTube, or even in the Hive at some point. And with that, I will say bye.